what is the seed of how that started and why you wanted to tell Nola's story?
So I started writing the script because I had this image that I couldn't shake of a girl driving a van alone at night and feeling totally comfortable. And I just kept trying to figure out, like, where did she come from and where is she going, and how did she get into the situation? And then I discovered the subculture of van dwelling and just completely became obsessed with this like huge community of people who live out of their vans and turn them into tiny homes. And it all clicked, and I just realized if Nola had been raised in this lifestyle, she would feel totally comfortable behind the wheel because it's the only home she's ever known. And then from that, it kind of, kept growing, and yeah, that was kind of like the first spark.
How did you research van culture?
So I drove from Arkansas to California. Solo. Living out of a car for a bit. When I first wrote the script, it won a screenplay award at the Tribeca Film Festival, which Gina Davis started 5 years ago, and Bruce Stern had sponsored a screenwriting award. And so Kaylin and I went there, and then I departed in a car, and then kind of kept refining the story and was writing as I drove to California. And so that was really kind of where I was meeting a lot of folks living out of vans and talking to them and reaching out online. And then one of the people I met was Ryan, who appears at the end of the movie, who brings her to the van gathering, and he's sort of like the king of van dwellers. And he's the one who found our van and then drove it to set and was with us every day, just making sure, that everything ran smoothly.
Van consultant.
Yes, van consultant / van wrangler. And he was with us at the premiere yesterday, which was great.
And Nola is, she's in almost every moment of the movie, and she's often alone by acting by herself, and she goes through a lot. So just to start that casting process, what were you looking for, and how did Sabrina kind of fit that for you?
Casting was tough. Casting, I would say, was sort of like the biggest, most stressful part of the process for me, because I knew this movie was gonna live or die on whoever was playing Nola. And there was a lot of, sort of this feeling of like, you cast somebody who has a super recognizable name, and we were still trying to raise the financing at that point. And so, there was a lot of back and forth of like, find someone who's just like, which is like a very kind of common
Superstar.
Yeah, just find a star, just find a star. And sort of had this whole roller coaster process, and then finally was like, I just want to meet with people. I got it. I just want to meet, actors who really want to sink their teeth into this role and are totally willing to like not wear any makeup, be totally vulnerable and just dive into this character. So I wound up just getting a lot of coffees with a lot of young actresses. Some I had heard about, some I hadn't, some, had long resumes, some were just getting into acting. And the first time I talked to Sabrina, she was in an empty house surrounded by her boxes because she had just moved into a house, because she's a big singer and is so used to touring and living out of a suitcase. It's like, I finally am living in a house for the first time. I was like, oh, you get what this is. And then I narrowed it down to sort of like my top 6, and then we did like a kind of a proper audition, which ended up being more like a acting workshop with, I brought in a couple different friends because I wanted to see, I love improv, and I really wanted them to kind of bring as much of themselves to the character as possible. And Sabrina was just incredible and blew me away, and
she's amazing.
She's the best.
And a question for everybody, locations. So you shot in some beautiful, very specific, big open skies type places. So where did you shoot and how did you find those, you know, key spots that you needed?
Yeah, that was a long process. We did a pre-scout where we went and just kind of drove around. Everything was shot around Albuquerque, New Mexico. So the three of us actually went and just drove around a lot and just to get a sense of the landscape and sort of see what fit the script. And then we came back later with our locations department and really like narrowed it down from there. There's so many places to choose from in Albuquerque. It's beautiful everywhere you look.
Where was that very last scene?
That was White Sands National Monument. And that was our favorite location.
Does anyone have any questions? You can go to the audience.
Hi. Can't see anything because of the spotlight.
But you sound great.
Exactly. I was curious, at what point did you pull in Come Along, the song selection?
Oh yeah.
Ooh, so the song selection had to happen before we shot because we had to get it cleared in order to make sure we could legally use the song. And there were other songs that were at the top of the list, and the price tags were insane. Our music supervisors, who were wonderful, you know, just kept sending. I had sent a couple songs. I'd actually written in the earlier drafts of the script songs with the actual lyrics in them, that then were just so far out of our budget. It was crazy. And then our music supervisors were really great and had sent along songs kind of in the vein of what I'd originally put in, and Come Along was just like, oh, this is perfect and it works. I think it even worked better than what I had originally put in there. And yeah, that's how it came to be.
And about how early before shooting was it then that you narrowed it down?
We were in pre-production. We were in New Mexico, and I remember. So we have a very dear friend, Jared Arnold, who does a lot of our sound, and he's a musician, and he had come to visit us in New Mexico, and we had just gotten in the playlist from the music supervisors, and so we were listening to songs with him, and Come Along was just like immediately we were like, oh, that's the one, and yeah, it was a pretty organic process. Thank you so much.
I think we have to ask you about the Hulk, the van. How'd you find it? How'd you work with it? How'd you shoot inside a little van?
Well, I'm gonna explain what Ani and Kaylin really did here, but Brian, the fan, he located. Yeah, it's his van. So Ani and Kaylin, I really want to emphasize how much research they did to capture this community of van dwellers. Not only did she do a solo road trip, Ani went to the Oregon-based van festival, which is Descend on Ben. Right, so the guy at the very end with the glasses and beard, as Ani said, is a real life van dweller and has a huge Instagram following with his family, and she engaged with that community, and that community is incredibly excited for this movie as well, which is really great. But Ryan built out the van. He talked to Kaylin ahead of time to how she wanted to place the camera, and really built out the van so that we could shoot it in a way that was good for Kaylin and Ani's shot choices, and then he physically drove it down. His daughter came to set. It was a real family affair, which we're internally grateful for.
Oh, his daughter's also, so that's his daughter.
Right, the small girl in the van next to him is his daughter.
So a big
We're gonna
question.
quote you for our sales pitch. So I'll give you the dry version of what's happening next, and then Ani or Kaylin can talk more specifically about exactly what you're talking about. But we're just now starting what's known as like the festival circuit, which is what independently financed movies do. We're playing next in Chicago Critics Film Festival and also Bentonville Film Festival, which is where this project got a screenwriting award a couple years ago, so it's a nice full circle. But we're gonna basically keep doing a bunch of regional film festivals in the US and hopefully do an international premiere within the next few months. We're waiting to hear back from those festivals. And then the idea is that from these festivals, we then move to a formal distributor, and it'll be released in theaters and SVOD and your normal transactional places. But this is where this is sort of, small films like this we get on people's radars when like people show up to the festival and tweet about it and share about it. So if you like it, it would be great if you could share that online, because this is a crucial part of the process. But I'm really glad to hear what you're saying about simpler living and tiny homes, and Ani and Kaylin have thought about that for many years, so I will pass the mic.
Oh yeah, we want to do drive-ins. Everyone's gonna roll up in their vans. That's my real, fantasy. No, I mean we hope to keep screening it in as many festivals as possible, and then Descend, the van festival that Ryan runs. Literally thousands of vans show up, and been plotting hopefully an outdoor screening there. Because I mean, they're like to your point, I think van dwelling is kind of the canary in the coal mine, and so many people who I've met with have been like, this is the first time that we're seeing van dwelling on screen in a real way that isn't a documentary, and so a lot of folks are really excited about it, and hopefully it gets to play in a theater near you soon. Thank you.
And you have very active social media, I know that. Got a lot going on Instagram. I did see a hand waving in the middle, but can you just shout it out?
I noticed that Clint is a very virtuous character in the film, and yet Nola kind of has a moral ambiguity. How did she develop that if she didn't have like outside influences besides him, really?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think a lot of it is that Clint, has kind of like a very strong moral compass, but ultimately, they both march to the beat of their own drum, and I think a lot of what Nola's experiencing, especially after he passes away, is just sheer survival and trying to navigate this very shocking grief at the same time. And I think there's a lot of just figuring out how to get by that kind of takes over how she would have been, when he was with her.
That was our last question. Please support the film, please tell people about it, and please vote for the Audience Award. So you gotta do it on your app, in the theater, and we'll see what's next for you guys soon.